Parshas Masei is most appropriately always one of the parshas that we read during the 3 weeks because it talks about Golus. Am Yisrael in the desert, wandering from place to place. The din of Orei Miklat. So these parshas deal with Inyane Golus most appropriately. So the question is, why, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted the detailed map of every place that Am Yisrael went to in the desert, to be written in the Torah. The Rambam writes that this is from, the Moreh Nevuchim is from Sisrei Torah, from the secrets of Torah. Why HaKadosh Baruch Hu, wanted these things, inscribed, a map that we could have largely figured out by ourselves if we read, carefully all the parshas from Shmos. Until here, we could have constructed this map, very much on our own, but it had to be written in detail. Right? Very interesting to note, from the Baal Shem HaKadosh that all the Sfarim bring in this week's parsha, the Chasir Sfarim, that just like Am Yisrael had to go through 42 masos, so every neshama of every Jew has to go through 42 masos. This was Mamish Masa of a similar Labanim. I don't know if it all has to be done in the same Gilgul, but there's the wanderings that we speak about in this week's parsha is something cosmic about it. And we'll try to talk about it more in context of what has to do with the 3 weeks and perhaps a message of hope. The pasuk opens up, Ela Masei b'nei Yisrael, and then the second pasuk says, V'echtav Moshe es motzaim l'masaim al pi Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu wrote, the place where they departed from and their travels, because by divine command, and we're trying to understand the wisdom of why HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded the place to be inscribed in the Torah for all time. Ve'ele masa'ayim l'motzayim, then the pasuk repeats itself but in reverse order, and it's not just repetitive, but it's almost nonsensical. They went motzayim l'masa'ayim, the place of departure. The root of the word motzah is tzei. This is where they left from, and these are their travels. And these are masa'em l'motza'em, pasuk repeats itself in words, and these are their travels to their point of departure. Not true. The way it's written in the first part of pasuk is correct, sensical. Motzah, masa, where you left from and where you're traveling to. And there's a traveling masa'em l'motza'em. So before we come to understand what we're being taught with the second part of the pasuk that says it again but in reverse order, Rashi brings an interesting medrash Tanchuma. So Rabbi Tanchuma darash po drasha acheres, other than the pasuk the pshat that he brought from Moshe Darshan, that we could see Chaste Hashem that as much as there are 42 masos, they didn't move around that much. Rabbi Tanchuma had a different mahalach in this. Moshel lemalach shahaya b'no chole is a moshel for a king whose son was sick. V'olichol u'makam rachok l'refuaso, and he took him to a faraway place to heal him. Kevan shu chayzrin, when they were on their way back, hitchil aviv moina kol masos, his father was counting all the places that they camped out on their travels. Omar and he said, Kan Yashano, this is where we slept. Kan Okar, this is where it was cold for us. Kan Chashash, remember here, this is where you had your headache. Right? So Rashi stops off over here. He doesn't bring the whole medrash, but the medrash ends off and says, Kach Omar La Kadosh Baruch Hu Moshe Menes Kol HaMakomos Sheyechisuni. I want you to write in the Torah all these places, all the masos where Am Yisrael got me angry. That's what you want to remember. Right? And also have to understand the correlation between the mashal and the nimshal. There's a king whose son is sick, and on the way back, they're having some nostalgia. Right? And this is why the masos are written here. There's a kasha that the Ramchal poses in his Ma'amar HaGeula, the sefer they wrote about the Gula Asida. And he poses a very disturbing question. All right, the pasuk says, "Samchenu ki mos inisanu shnos ra'inu ra." HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you should give up joy for parallel, commensurate with all those years that we were tortured and we saw bad. So Ramchal already said in his day, God can't deliver on that promise. Right? Shita fishnin have alma. World only is going to last for 6,000 years. Then it goes kaboom. It's closed for renovations to become olam haba. Right? Mashiach's got to come. It's popular. Contrary to popular misconception, Mashiach has to come before the year 6,000, because 6,000, it's game over. Right? The whole world, this whole thing is 6,000 years, this whole business. Don't make any long-term investments. It's ending soon. Right? So the Ramchal already asked in the 1700s, right, if Mashiach would come today, how much time left to play? Right? 500 years, something like that. Right? Kosh can't deliver, right? Because we've been in Golus by his day, 1,500 years already. How's the Rebbe going to be Mekayim the pasuk? Samchenu ki mos inisanu shnos ra'inu ra'a. So now he says a certain teretz over there. He says Lefi Darko want to suggest, I'll pay other svarim a different teretz to this very burning kasha. It should bother anybody. The Indian is like this. There's a famous story, Gemara at the end of Makkas, that Rabbi Kiva was walking with Chachamim, and they heard Kol Hamula Shel Romi. They heard the Romans partying, and they were crying, and he was laughing. And as the story goes, they asked him, why are you crying? Why are you laughing? They asked him, why are you crying? He said, well, these are the people, these are the Ovdei Avodah Zarah, and they have such simcha. And Rabbi Kiva answers, Im la'ovrei ritzono kach la'osi ritzono achas kam v'kam. If people who violate HaKadosh Baruch Hu's will, they have such good in Olam Hazeh. Those who uphold HaKadosh Baruch Hu's will, how much more so? And the way the Gemara tells the story, they didn't respond. Then, right, it ends there. There's no response from the Chachamim. But then there's another story that they were once walking. They saw a shul yotzi beis kodesh HaKadoshim. They saw a fox run out of where the Kodesh HaKadoshim used to stand, and they started crying, and he started laughing. And he asked, why are you laughing? And he asked, why are you crying? He said, this is the place of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and now there's a foxes, shualim hilchubo. And Rabbi Kiva tells them a very interesting thing, that the nevuah of Zechariah and Uri are totally zebazeh. Right, that he brings a pasuk to teach that the hard times and the good times come together. And until we see the nevuahs of all the hard times makuyam, right? Until then, we can't hope to see the nevuahs of all the nechamas. Right? The two go together. You have to go through the hard times to get to the good times. And the Gemara says something very interesting. Boloshon ze amrulo. They said the following. The Gemara wants to make a note of the exact words that they said. Akiva nichamtanu, Akiva nichamtanu. And the Gemara wants to know. Boloshon ze amrulo. Akiva nichamtanu, Akiva nichamtanu. So it is like this, Dover Nifla Ma'od, right? To explain why they initially, the dialogue ended, by the first discussion when Rabbi Kiva said their answer, and they were not consoled. The second time around, they were consoled, and that's why they said it twice. So some unfortunately say the second, saying it twice goes on the first event, because apparently at the time they weren't consoled. But the Indian is like this, Dover Nifla Ma'od, right? What we read in Shabbos Nachamu, Nachamu Ami, Lashon Kaful. And the Medrash, the Psikta makes note of that. The Marsh Nachamu Ami, parallel to what they said, Akiva Nichamtano, they're following the pattern of the Navi. And the Indian is like this, right? Real Nechama, to be really consoled for the hard times that you went through, right, is that you have to see the good in the hard times. Right? Because that the hard times are over and you're not going to suffer anymore, that's great. But what about all the time lost? What about the pain you went through? So even if there's a gemar that you're no longer suffering from this point onwards, but there's still ala rishonim anu mitzdarim. There's still painful memories of what was then. Real nechama has to be double, right? That not just from this point onwards are you not going to suffer anymore, but you have to somehow see how the hard times were all for the good also. Otherwise, that time from your life, or that time from history, went for the bad, went for the sitra achra. And that's why nechama, Chazal say this in effect, right? The nechama is beloshen kaful. You know what this doma to the din of imihimotze timotze biyado hagneva, right? You find the guy who stole from you, you get kefil. You get double, right? You don't just get your item back, right? But you now get more to compensate you for the time that you were missing it, right? And the nechama of Am Yisrael has to be kaful. And we have to understand that when the good times come, it's not going to be good from that point onwards, but also retroactively. we're going to see how all the hard times that we went through are a part of the good times and made the good times possible. And we reframe history, reframe our perspective on the past, and understand how it was also l'tova, it was for our benefit. And that's what it means when Rabbi Akiva told him his second point, right, in the second story, that the nevuos of the hard times are totally in the nevuos of the good times. They're totally in each other. And you have to go through the hard times to get to the good times. And when you hit the good times, you'll see how all the hard times were a part of the process to get to the good times. And you could reframe your memory and reframe your perspective on it all. That's why he said, Akiva nichamtanu, double. Right? And that's when they were Makabel Tanchumin, because what happened in the first story, just say that in the end it will be good. If it's good for them now, it will be even better for us in the end. Fine, better for us in the end. But what's with now? How do you see the good in what there is now? Right? As if Chas v'Shalom, the days of Olam Hazeh, most of them went to the Sitra Achra. Most of them, the Goyim were in control. They had a 2,000-year empire so far, this Golus. Right? What about all that time lost from Malchus Shemayim? Right? You have to get a perspective on how that's also for the good. Right? And that's the inyan, that when Am Yisrael went into Golus, we go back into the mashal that Rashi brings from the Medrash Tanchuma, that the son of the king was sick, right? And he had to go l'makom rachok l'refuaso, right? Golus was therapy, right? Because of how we sinned so badly, we had to go into Golus to find our tikkun, because we caused the Beis HaMikdash to be destroyed. So the kedusha that there was concentrated in Makom Mikdash now scattered throughout the world, and we have to collect those sparks that dispersed. Right? Lo hugli so lebena umas el kadeshis vasulem gerim. The Gemara says in Yavamas, we went into Golus to mamish collect gerim, and collect gerim doesn't just mean only converts to pick up special neshamas that there are amongst the goyim, but as the Storm explained, to collect all the divine sparks that were spread there. If we would have been Zochet, those divine sparks would have come to us in Eretz Yisrael. But since we were in Zocha, we have to now go around the world and pick these things up. Right? But when we get back to Eretz Yisrael, right, and that's what we say, B'chazarasan, when they go back, he got his refuad. The son of the king got healed, and now he's on B'chazarasan. They're Moine Kompas, on their way back, meaning going back to their origin. Right? And remember what we went through over here. That was all part of the process, all necessary in order to get healed. Right? Am Yisrael, when in all the different places that we went into Golus, right? That because of our sins we went there. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, his makkah to us is not a makkah of nekama; it's a makkah of therapy. It's like a painful therapy to make us better again. In all the different places that we ever went, we came out of there with chidushei Torah, right? We went to Babel and we came out with the Talmud Bavli, right? We went to Germany and France. We came out with the Tosfos. We went to Spain. We came out with the Ramban, the Rashba, and the Ritva, right? V'chein hala, went to Eastern Europe. We brought back Lumbus. We brought back Hasidus. And similar davar that right now in America, where Jidin are all gathering, whether in America or in Eretz Yisrael, you have kilos called bells, and yeshiva called tells, all those mekaymas, right? All those mekaymas, right? That as much as we suffered there, but a lot of chidushei Torah are produced as a countermeasure to challenges. A lot of tshuvas and halacha. Why were they written? A shaila came up. A crisis came up. Why were a lot of svarim written? Also, because a crisis came up. A lot of what Am Yisrael produced and the expansion of Torah Shebaal Peh that happened in the time of the Golus in all these different places was in response to the challenges that we had in those places. Like Chazal say, Am Yisrael's nimshal lezayis. You want the olive to give its oil. You gotta squeeze it a little bit. That gives us also Am Yisrael, when the Goyim oppress them, they do tshuva and they produce chidushei Torah. It's a Medrash Rabbah and Parshas Tetzaveh. Right? And that's what it means over here, right? That the Indian of the Masos was being kover this Indian, that wherever Am Yisrael goes, they were in the desert for 40 years, that was their first Golus, because of Cheder Meraglim, which precedented all the Goluyos. Because of Cheder Meraglim, they had to wander for 40 years, and that was kover, the Bechir L'Dors of Tisha B'Av, that was the shorsh of all Goluyos. But already here in the desert, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is being kover Yesod. Wherever you're going to go, in Golus, seemingly in disgrace, you're actually in the process of finding your way back. And that's what it means. It was Motzeim l'Maseim. So this is where you're going, but Elim Maseehem l'Motzeehem. Right? But you have to remember that these travels is also all about getting back to where you came from. That when we went into Golus from Eretz Yisrael, our exiting Eretz Yisrael was actually the beginning of our way back. And that's the secret of what it means, that on Tisha B'Av the Bais was Nechrav, but on Tisha B'Av Mashiach was born also. That and the Maral talks about in his Sefer Netzach Yisrael that the word Golus and Geula have the same shorish, virtually the same lashon, Gal, right? That the travel, the wave, right? It goes around. It's a process going full circle. That as much as we were thrown into Golus with all the challenges and the pain that Kodesh Baruch Hu threw us, all that challenge and pain turns into Divrei Torah, turns into tshuva and tefillah that build up our chelek and olam haba, that in the future it's all going to be reframed. And we have a different perspective on the last 2,000 years, how it was all for our good and how it was all building up, right? The good times. And that's what it means. So the pasuk ends off, Ve'elam Masem Motzeim, that the travels in Golus is for the tachas of bringing us back to where we came from.